Coming in at number 20 is a show that had one job: be fun, be charming, and don't overstay its welcome. And it nailed every single one of those things. See You at Work. Tomorrow is a straight-up office rom-com. No frills, no hidden trauma arcs, no second lead love triangles that make you want to throw your phone across the room. SEO and Gook plays the kind of coworker that your brain knows is a terrible idea, but your heart has already decided is absolutely fine. The chemistry between the leads builds exactly the way a good slow burn should. Annoyance to reluctant respect to that moment where they realize they've been looking forward to seeing each other every single day, and neither of them knows what to do with that information. What earns it a spot on this list is how clean and confident the writing is. It never tries to be more than it is. In a year where almost every drama is trying to shock you or devastate you or make you question the nature of time itself, sometimes the most refreshing thing you can watch is just two people being idiots about liking each other. Light, breezy, exactly what it promises. A solid 20. Now we shift gears completely because Reverse is a different kind of watching experience entirely. SEO Jihai plays a woman who has dedicated her entire adult life, 15 years, to uncovering the truth about her parents' mysterious deaths. She is obsessed. She is methodical. She has a plan. And then one car crash wipes her memory completely, and suddenly the person most determined to find the truth is the one person who can no longer remember what she was looking for. What makes this work is that it never lets you get comfortable. Like every time you think you understand what really happened, the show peels back another layer, and what you find underneath is more complicated and more devastating than what was on top. SEO Jihai is doing some of the most controlled, precise work of her career here. You can feel the fury underneath every scene, even when her character can't remember why she's angry. It asks a lot of you as a viewer. It wants your full attention. And if you give it that, it pays you back in full by the finale. Let me paint you a picture. You are a completely ordinary middle-aged dad. You do school pickups. You argue about who forgot to buy groceries. You have not thought about your previous life, the one where you were a highly trained government agent, in years. You buried it. You chose this. Then your daughter goes missing, and every single thing you buried comes back, all at once, whether you want it to or not. That is Agent Kim reactivated in a nutshell, and the reason it works as well as it does is because the emotional foundation is airtight. This is not a cool action show about a cool spy doing cool things. It is a show about a father whose worst nightmare and his most dangerous skill set have arrived at the same moment, and watching him navigate that is genuinely gripping. The action sequences are well choreographed and hit harder than you'd expect, but they earn their impact because you're emotionally invested before any of them start. Think John Wick energy with actual stakes you care about underneath. Comfortably sits at 18. Doctor on the Edge is the kind of medical drama that doesn't get made enough. Not because it's the most dramatic, it's actually one of the quieter shows on this list, but because of what it chooses to focus on. Instead of the usual high-stakes city hospital where someone is flatlining every 12 minutes, this one drops its doctors into a rural posting. Under-resourced, isolated, full of patients who haven't seen a specialist in years, if ever. And the show treats that setting with real weight. It's not a backdrop, it's the whole point. The tension in this drama doesn't come from dramatic surgery scenes. It comes from the gap between what these doctors want to do for their patients and what they actually have the tools and the staff to do. If you've been watching K-drama medical shows for a while and you're a little tired of the same formula, this is the one that will genuinely surprise you with how much it makes you feel without ever raising its voice. Understated and completely worth your time. Okay, so The Wonderfools is officially one of the most fun watches of 2026, and I will stand on that. Written by the same person behind Extraordinary Attorney Woo, this show is set right at the edge of 1999, when half the world was genuinely convinced Y2K was going to end civilization as we know it. In the middle of all that collective panic, a group of young people start discovering they have superpowers. And the show takes that absurd premise completely seriously while also being absolutely hilarious about it, which is a harder balance to pull off than it sounds. Park Yoon-bin is the main reason to watch this. And I say that as someone who already thought she was one of the best actresses working in this genre. She is doing something here that feels completely different from everything she has done before. Funnier, more physically committed, more chaotic. And every single scene she is in has this electric energy that makes it impossible to look away. But here's what separates it from just being a fun superhero comedy. Underneath all the chaos, the show is genuinely asking what it means to discover who you really are, right at the moment everyone around you thinks the world is ending. That's the layer that stays with you after the credits roll. Spring Fever is not trying to reinvent the wheel. Grumpy local meets sunshine outsider, small town setting, slow burn that takes its sweet time getting where it's going. You know this formula. And you know what? There is a reason this formula keeps working, and Spring Fever is a textbook example of why. And Bo Yun plays Seon Jae-gyu, a rough-around-the-edges local from a small town in Shinsu, and Lee Ju-bin plays Yoon Bom, a vibrant teacher who moves there after a career-ending scandal in the city. The tension between them is built on the exact kind of slow, grinding friction that makes enemies to lovers stories satisfying when they're done right. Every interaction is loaded with things neither of them will say out loud yet. What lifts this above a generic entry in the genre is how grounded it feels. The small town isn't just a pretty backdrop. The community matters. The people in it matter. And watching two people with broken histories find each other in a place where everyone already knows everyone's business is quietly, genuinely lovely. Azure Spring might be the most underrated drama of the entire year, and that genuinely frustrates me because what this show does emotionally is extraordinary. Based on a popular webtoon, it follows two people who end up on a remote coastal island at the lowest points of their lives. Deok Hyun is a man so buried in grief, he's forgotten how to want anything anymore. An Na is a former professional athlete whose career ended suddenly in an accident and who doesn't know who she is outside of the sport that defined her entire identity. They find each other through traditional deep-sea diving, which sounds like an odd choice, but it becomes the emotional spine of the whole show. Some episodes have almost no dialogue at all. The ocean does the work that words can't. And instead of feeling empty, those quiet stretches feel incredibly full. Like the show trusts you enough to sit in the feeling without explaining it to you every 5 minutes. If you have been burned out by dramas that are constantly screaming for your attention, Azure Spring is a long exhale, one of the most quietly powerful things this year has produced. The Whispering Sea is for the viewer who wants their K-drama to feel like a prestige limited series, not a weekly comfort watch. And I mean that as a compliment. Set in a remote coastal town with a history it would rather keep buried, this show follows a mystery structure that is genuinely patient in a way that most thriller dramas are too nervous to attempt. It doesn't rush. It lets scenes breathe. It lets atmosphere do the storytelling. And the cinematography is doing things that honestly belong in a film festival submission. There are shots in this show that I replayed multiple times just to look at them. There's a supernatural element humming underneath the whole story, but the show is smart enough never to over-explain it. You feel it more than you understand it, which is exactly the right way to handle that kind of narrative texture in a mystery. The payoff in the final 2 episodes earns every minute of patience the earlier episodes asked of you. This is the kind of drama that makes you want to go back and rewatch episode 1 immediately, because you now understand exactly what you were looking at the first time. This one is going to hit differently depending on where you are in your life, and I want to be honest about that before I tell you how good it is. We are all trying. Here follows 8 friends, all film directors, who have known each other since childhood. 7 of them have made their directorial debuts, 1 hasn't, and the show is about what it does to a friendship and to a person To watch everyone you grew up with achieve the thing you all dreamed about together while you're still standing at the starting line. Ku Kyo-hwan plays Hwang Dong-man, the one who's still waiting. And the performance is devastating in the most controlled possible way. He never plays the character as a villain for feeling jealous. He never lets you fully pity him either. He's just a person carrying something heavy, trying to figure out how to put it down. The ensemble around him is stacked with talent, and the writing refuses to give any of them an easy arc. Nobody gets a clean resolution because that's not how this actually works in real life. It's messy and complicated and completely honest, and it is one of the most mature dramas this year has delivered. Sold Out on You has the most ridiculous premise on this entire list, and I need to be upfront about that. An insomniac, home shopping host with a 1 trillion sales record travels to a remote village to close a business deal and keeps colliding with the secretive grumpy mushroom farmer who also happens to be the CEO and head researcher of the company she's trying to sign. His nickname is Quail. I am not making any of this up. And Hyo-seop plays Quail, real name Matthew Lee, and he commits completely to this character in a way that makes the whole thing work far better than it has any right to. The bickering to slow feelings pipeline between him and his leading lady is exactly the kind of long, painful, enjoyable slow burn that this genre built its entire reputation on. Every time they almost get there, something gets in the way, and somehow that keeps being funny instead of frustrating. It's a healing drama at its core. Two people who have run themselves into the ground for their careers, slowly learning that maybe slowing down doesn't mean giving up. Light, charming, and sneakily emotional in the back half. Don't sleep on it. We just crossed into the top 10, and I want you to pay attention to the shift in quality from here on out because it is significant. No Tale to Tell marks Kim Hye-yoon's return to the screen after Lovely Runner made her one of the most talked about actresses in the genre, and the first thing she did was pick a role that is completely, deliberately nothing like Imsol. She plays a Gumiho, a 9-tailed fox spirit, okais, who, unlike basically every Gumiho character you've ever seen in a K-drama, wants absolutely nothing to do with becoming human. She loves being immortal. She loves her fox powers. She has a whole life she's perfectly happy with. And then an accident involving an arrogant professional soccer player strips all of that away against her will. And now two people who have every reason to hate each other are stuck sharing the same miserable situation. The comedy in this show is sharper than you'd expect, and Kim Hye-yoon handles it with a precision that makes it look effortless, which it absolutely is not. She's carrying the whole emotional weight of a character who is genuinely grieving something enormous while also being funnier than almost anyone else on screen this year. A confident top 10 entry and proof that she can anchor any genre she chooses. Filing for Love might be the most satisfying enemies to lovers workplace drama this year has produced, and it is not a close competition. Shin Hee-sun plays Ju In-ah, the head of the audit department at a major conglomerate, the kind of boss with a reputation so terrifying that her name alone makes grown adults rearrange their entire schedules to avoid crossing her path. She is razor sharp, emotionally armored, and absolutely ruthless when it comes to anything she considers a professional failing. Gong Myung plays No Ki-jun, the Golden Boy Star auditor who gets publicly demoted and reassigned to work directly under her, which is basically the corporate equivalent of being told to walk into a burning building and take notes. The tension between them from episode 1 is immediate and electric. The banter is genuinely funny, not in a scripted, feel like you're supposed to laugh way, but in the way that good banter actually works, where the insults reveal character and the comebacks tell you exactly who these people are underneath the armor they're both wearing. What separates this from a standard office rom-com is how carefully the show builds the case that both of these people have real reasons for the walls they've built. When those walls start to crack, it matters because you've spent 8 episodes understanding exactly why they went up in the first place. Barely a single weak hour in the whole run There are very few franchises in K-drama history that have managed to maintain genuine emotional quality across multiple seasons. Yumi's Cells is one of them, and Season 3 is the proof. Kim Go-eun returns as Yumi, and this time we're watching her navigate her mid-30s. Her career at a peak she worked incredibly hard to reach. Her personal life more complicated than her 20-something self could have predicted, and those tiny animated cells inside her head still arguing with each other about every single decision she makes. The love cell is quieter this season. The career cell has a lot more to say. What the show does better than almost anything else in this genre is make the interior life of one woman feel genuinely universal. The cell's format is funny on the surface, but what it's actually doing is showing you the negotiation happening inside every person between what they want, what they think they should want, what they're afraid of, and what they've convinced themselves they're fine with. Season 3 earns its place on this list because it understands that the most interesting part of a person's story doesn't end when the romance does. It just gets more complicated and more honest and sometimes more lonely. And Kim Go-eun makes you feel every single second of all of it. This is the scariest thing on the list. It is not particularly close. If Wishes Could Kill follows a group of high school students who discover a mysterious app, Girigo, that promises to grant any wish you record on video. Sounds like a dream, right? The catch is brutal and simple. Once your wish is granted, a 24-hour countdown begins. When the timer hits 0, the person who made the wish dies. What this show does in 8 tight, zero-filler episodes is use that concept to completely dissect high school social dynamics. The power structures, the resentments, the desperate need to be chosen, the equally desperate fear of being left out. The wishes people make reveal exactly who they are. And watching the consequences of those wishes ripple through a friend group that is simultaneously trying to survive and figure out how to stop the curse is the kind of compulsive watching experience where you genuinely cannot leave after one episode. The cast nails the exact blend of teenage melodrama and genuine dread that this kind of YA horror needs to land properly. They never let it tip too far into camp, and they never let it get too nihilistic. It stays right in that uncomfortable middle zone where you're scared and you're also heartbroken about these kids, and you don't know which feeling to sit with first. 8 episodes. No filler. Do not start this one at 10 p.m. unless you have nowhere to be the next morning. Here's the thing about sequels in K-drama. Most of them should not exist. They are usually made because the first season made money, not because anyone had a story worth continuing. Bloodhounds. Season 2 is the rare exception that actually had something to say. Woo De-hwan and Lee Sang-gi are back as the 2 boxers who spent the first season taking down a loan shark operation that was destroying ordinary people's lives. This time the target is bigger, an international underground fight club, and so are the stakes, the production budget, and the ambition of the choreography, which somehow managed to get better when you thought it couldn't. But what keeps this from being just a flashy action sequel is the same thing that made the first season work. The relationship between the 2 leads. These are not cool, invincible action heroes. They are 2 young men who would burn everything down for each other, and the show never loses sight of what that actually costs them emotionally. There is a scene in episode 5 where neither of them says a single word for almost 2 minutes, and it is one of the most affecting pieces of acting either of them has delivered across both seasons. If you skipped season 1, go watch it first, then come straight back here. You will not regret the detour. 5 left, and I need you to understand something before we go any further. Every single show from here to number 1 could make a credible argument for the top spot. These are not just good dramas. These are the shows that defined 2026 as a year for Korean television. The ones people are going to be referencing in 5 years when they talk about what this era of the genre looked like. Okay, 5. Nobody, and I genuinely mean nobody, saw this coming. When The Legend of Kitchen Soldier was first announced, the reaction from most of the K-drama community was somewhere between mild curiosity and polite confusion. A military cooking comedy? With Park Ji-hoon from 101. Okay, sure. Moving on. Then it started airing, and something happened that nobody predicted. The show opens exactly as advertised. A new military recruit who discovers that the fastest way to survive the brutal structure of Korean military service is to become the best cook in the entire base. It is funny. It is charming. Park Ji-hoon is doing something genuinely different here from anything in his previous filmography, and the early episodes have this warm, almost nostalgic energy that makes them incredibly easy to watch. And then, episode 7 happens, and everything changes. In the middle of a scene that starts as a routine moment, his character collapses from pure exhaustion, months of pushing past his own limits finally catching up to him all at once. And in his unconscious state, he breaks down completely over the death of his father. The grief he has been carrying through the entire show, the grief the writers have been quietly building underneath all the comedy, comes pouring out in a scene that lasts 4 minutes and feels like 40. It is one of the single best acted moments in Korean television this year. The comments on that episode are just people writing that they did not expect to cry today. Thousands of them. The show climbed to a peak rating of nearly 10%. It topped paid subscriber charts for weeks straight. And it turned Park Ji-hoon's second act as a serious actor into one of the biggest stories in Korean entertainment in 2026. A sleeper hit in the truest possible sense of the word. The revenge genre came back in 2026, and this is the show that did it. Based on the popular webtoon Get Schooled, Teach You a Lesson follows a fictional government bureau built specifically to do the one thing Korean schools have historically refused to do: actually hold their worst bullies accountable. Lee Sung-min leads the bureau as the education minister, who genuinely believes these students are capable of becoming monsters if nobody stops them. And the team he assembles, played by Kim Moo-yeol, Jin Ki-ju, and Pyo Ji-hoon, goes into schools to do exactly that. The format is almost procedural at times. Each case is a different bully, a different victim, a different form of cruelty, and that structure works because it gives the showroom to be specific. It doesn't deal in vague, bullying is bad messaging. It shows you the exact mechanics of how power works in a high school environment, who enables it, who pretends not to see it, and what it costs the people at the bottom of that hierarchy in ways that never fully heal. Watching the Bureau dismantle each case is some of the most cathartic television released this year. Not in a simple way. The show is careful never to make the satisfaction feel cheap. But for anyone who went through something like this and never got an apology, never got justice, never even got an acknowledgement, this drama gives you something close. It debuted at number 1 on Netflix's non-English chart and landed in the top 10 in 85 countries within the first week. Those numbers make complete sense. This one earns every single viewer it gets. The Scarecrow is the most beautifully made drama on this entire list. I have thought about that claim carefully, and I am standing by it. Park Hae-soo plays Kang Tae-ju, a disgraced former detective, once considered one of the best in the country, who is pulled out of retirement by a case he cannot ignore. An imprisoned serial killer has been linked to additional unsolved murders, and the killer is insisting on talking to him specifically. Tae-ju has to return to the hometown he left in disgrace and work alongside the prosecutor he has despised for 30 years, Lee Hee-jun's Cha Se-young, to figure out what this killer is actually trying to tell them. The show starts slowly, deliberately slowly. Some viewers bounced off the first 2 episodes, and I understand why, but I am telling you right now, stay. Because somewhere around episode 4, the Scarecrow shifts its weight and grabs you by the collar, and it does not let go until the final frame. The cinematography is doing things you rarely see in Korean television. Shots that linger a beat longer than you expect. Lighting that feels like it's hiding something in every corner. a visual grammar that is constantly telling you there is more happening than what you are being shown, which is exactly the right way to frame a story about a killer whose truth is still buried somewhere underneath 30 years of silence. The chemistry between Park Hae-soo and Lee Hee-jun is one of the most compelling on-screen pairings of the year. Two men who hate each other and are forced to realize they are more similar than either of them wants to admit. This is the kind of drama that makes critics reach for words like masterclass. For once, they are not exaggerating. Two left, and the gap between number 3 and number 2 on this list is significant. My Royal Nemesis hit Netflix's global non-English top 10 in its very first week, and ranked in the top 10 across 44 countries. Critics described Lim Ji-yeon's performance as career best. Fans online declared it the spiritual successor to beloved classics, and immediately started posting about it in multiple languages. The engagement around this show was unlike almost anything else that aired this year. Here's the premise. Kang Dan-sim was the most notorious villainess in all of Joseon history, calculating, brilliant, terrifying, and completely unrepentant about all of it. She was forced to drink poison at court and died. And then her spirit woke up in 2026 inside the body of a completely ordinary, struggling actress named Shin Seo-ri. Now she is navigating smartphones, the entertainment industry, and a ruthless chaebol heir named Cha Se-gye, played by Heo Nam-jun, in a performance critics compared to a young Lee Byung-hun, with the exact same weaponized precision she used to navigate Joseon court politics. What Lim Ji-yeon does with this role is remarkable. The thing that made her performance as Yeonjin in The Glory so terrifying, that quality of absolute control of a person who has decided exactly how every room they enter is going to go, is here transformed completely into comedy. Dan Sim walking through a modern shopping mall with full Joseon court posture. Dan Sim encountering a smartphone and treating it like it has personally insulted the royal decree. The same character architecture deployed at an entirely different frequency. It is funny, and it is romantic, and it is surprisingly emotional in the back half. And it is one of the 2 best dramas of 2026. But it is not number 1. When you put this out to actual viewers and ask them to vote on the best K-drama of 2026 so far, this is the answer they keep giving. Not the loudest show, not the most viral, the best. Kim Seon-ho plays Ju-ho Jin, a professional interpreter who has built his entire existence around the principle of staying neutral. He speaks 8 languages. He translates everyone else's words, everyone else's feelings, everyone else's meaning, and in doing so, he has found a way to move through the world that never requires him to say anything that is actually genuinely his own. He is the most emotionally guarded person you will meet in any drama this year. Go Yoon-jung plays Cha Moo-hee, a world-famous actress who is the exact opposite. Impulsive, honest to the point of chaos, dramatic in ways that are equal parts exhausting and magnetic, and underneath all of it, deeply lonely in a way she has no idea how to fix. They have worked together before. Neither of them was expecting to work together again. The show was shot across 4 countries: Japan, Italy, Canada, and South Korea. And every single location feels earned, not decorative. It comes from the Hong sisters, the writing team behind Hotel del Luna and Alchemy of Souls, which tells you everything you need to know about the level of craft behind the dialogue and the emotional structure of the whole series. What Kim Seon-ho and Go Yoon-jung do together in this show cannot be directed into existence. It is either there or it is not. And here it is so present and so specific that there are moments where you forget you are watching a drama at all. This is old school romance made by people who understand at a deep structural level why old school romance works. It has been a consistent top 10 performer since the day it dropped, and it is the rare 2026 release where every type of viewer, regardless of what they came in looking for, landed on the exact same answer. If you watch nothing else on this list, watch this one. Then come tell me whether you agree it belongs at number 1. And that is your top 20 K-dramas of 2026 so far. From a charming office rom-com at the bottom, all the way up to a romance that made an entire fandom agree for once, which, as we established, is basically impossible. Now, I genuinely want to hear from you. Do you agree with this list? Is there something in your top 10 that I ranked too low? Is there a drama that deserved a spot and didn't make it? Because I know some of you have very strong feelings about where the Scarecrow landed versus My Royal Nemesis, and I want that conversation in the comments right now. Drop your own ranking below. Tell me what I got wrong, what I got right, and what drama emotionally wrecked you this year, and whether it showed up on this list or not. I read every comment, and if you are new here, hit that subscribe button now because there is a lot more K-drama content on this channel. And we're just getting started on 2026. See you in the next one.